Could 30 Navy SEALs survive Omaha Beach with only what they carried? There is a steel hedgehog standing in the surf at low tide, 6 welded I-beams, maybe 4 feet high, planted in the sand at Omaha Beach on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944. The Atlantic slides around its legs in sheets of pale foam. A strand of barbed wire is threaded through one of its joints, and with each small swell it lifts, goes slack, lifts again. The hedgehog is not dramatic. It is simply there, cold and patient, one of hundreds stretching east and west along 4 miles of Norman sand, waiting for a hole to tear open on it. Here is the question we are going to sit with tonight. Could 30 modern Navy SEALs, carrying only what they could swim with, climb with, and carry on their backs, survive Omaha Beach? Could they do more than survive? Could they matter? The honest answer. Before we begin, this sits high on the improbable list, and yet the question is worth walking carefully, because the details are remarkable, and the details are true. If you enjoy falling asleep to history, a like and a subscribe mean this keeps going. More nights, more stories, and if you want to, drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from, and what the time is there. I like knowing where these voices land. Find a comfortable position now. Feel the pillow beneath your head, the weight of it, the cool side against your cheek or your ear. Take one slow breath in through your nose. Let it out through your mouth, unhurried. Feel your shoulders drop, just a little. Feel your jaw soften. Let your body press down into the mattress, into the warmth that is already there waiting for you. You don't need to do anything, just listen. You've woken in a flat-bottomed Higgins boat. Pre-dawn, 6 June 1944. The English Channel is gray-green and moving beneath your boots, and the hull shudders with each swell. Around you, men are pressed shoulder to shoulder. The smell is diesel, salt, wool, and something sharp underneath that you don't examine. Your mouth is dry. The Norman coast is a dark line ahead, low and featureless in the haze, and the sky above it is beginning to separate from the sea, pale at the horizon, still black above. You are in a landing craft among hundreds of landing crafts. That part is the same as every man here. What is different is what you are carrying, what you know, and where in your body you keep your fear. The ramp has not yet dropped. That is the good news. The bad news is that it will, and the bluffs above that sand, those steep chalk bluffs with their concrete emplacements, already dark with the shapes of men behind iron sights, are already watching the water. They have been watching all night. The craft rises on a swell and comes down hard, and someone near you retches over the side. The coastline grows. You can begin to make out the beach now, pale and wide, and the high ground above it, dark against the brightening sky. The hedgehogs are visible at this distance only as a texture, a roughness at the waterline. Your kit is on your back. Everything you have is what you carried into the water. You take a breath. The ramp is still up. 4 miles. You know the number, but it doesn't mean anything yet. Then the craft crests a swell, and you can see east and west at once, the whole crescent of it opening like a jaw. And now it means something. The beach is enormous. It sits there in the gray light, patient and enormous, and the bluffs behind it rise 100 feet of pale chalk and dark scrub. 100 feet is not so high. You have climbed higher than that in training, in the dark, in the rain. But 100 feet of open bluff, with a machine gun above it, is a different kind of height. It is the kind of height that owns the ground below it entirely. The craft drops into a trough, and the beach disappears. You grip the cold steel of the ramp lip and count the seconds until the bow lifts again. There it is, still there. The strong points along the high ground are not yet firing, the color of old pewter, and in it the concrete emplacements are just shadows, just shapes, not yet individual. You know what they are. You have studied aerial photographs until the geometry of this beach is inside you. The crescent curve, the way the flanks angle in to create interlocking fire across the whole width, no part of the sand outside some gun's reach. You know the draws. 4 of them, cutting up through the bluff to the plateau above Vireville at the western end. Les Moulins to the east of that, past a small cluster of houses. Saint Laurent roughly central, Colville toward the eastern end. They are not roads. Not yet, not from here. From here they are narrow shadow lines in the pale chalk face, barely visible, each one a crooked, rocky path that widens to perhaps 40 feet at the mouth, and then climbs blind between steep walls to whatever lies above, narrow doorways. For vehicles, for men on foot, for any kind of movement off this beach and onto the ground that matters, those 4 gaps are everything. To close the draws, and you close the beach. The water moves beneath you, and you look at the foreshore, the low tide, and the tide is still low, dropping further. The tidal flat between the water line and the shingle bank stretches 300 yards. 300 yards of open sand with no cover, no fold in the ground, no wall, no ditch. The wet sand at this hour is darker than the dry sand higher up, and the light catches it in long, flat sheets that make it look almost peaceful, almost like a beach you might walk on in another life. At the top of the flat, above the high water line, is the shingle bank, a natural berm of gray-blue pebbles rounded by centuries of tide, piled perhaps chest-high along most of the beach. Behind it, nothing. A narrow strip of ground before the base of the bluff begins to rise. The shingle will stop small arms rounds. It will not stop mortars. It will not stop the 88s registered on the waterline, but it is the only cover on the beach, and every man who reaches it will love it, like his own bed. The craft rises again. You can see the obstacles now in the spreading light, the hedgehogs, the mined stakes with their teller mines tilted toward the sky, the coils of barbed wire knitting everything together at the waterline. Between the obstacles and the shingle, the sand holds the shapes of small dark ripples where the retreating tide has combed it smooth. The ramp is still up, the H-hour is 30 minutes away. Up on the bluff, a man cups a cigarette behind his palm. The coal glows for a second, orange in the gray, then his hand closes around it. He is standing inside a concrete aperture, shoulders just inside the lip, and from where he stands the beach below is a pale strip, and the sea beyond it is full of shapes. He has been watching those shapes for 20 minutes. He knows what they are. Every man in every emplacement along this ridge knows what they are, because General Dietrich Kreis's 352nd Infantry Division has been waiting for this. Not today specifically, but some morning, some tide, some fleet appearing from the north, and the men of the 352nd are not farm boys handed a rifle last month. They came here from the Eastern Front, from Leningrad, from the Volkhov. They know what a defended position feels like from the wrong side of it, and they have spent months making sure this one is not that. The cigarette goes out. The man doesn't light another. His partner is seated at the MG-42, not gripping it yet, just resting his right hand on the spade grip, the way you might rest a hand on a table. The gun is on its mount, traversed slightly west, barrel angled down along a fixed line. That angle was calculated. The gun's field of fire was mapped with stakes and string on a dry afternoon 3 weeks ago, and the result is a lane of grazing fire that crosses the beach at roughly knee height for a standing man. It crosses the lane of the gun 2 emplacements west, a gun. 2 emplacements east, and those lanes cross others beyond them, and the geometry of it means that the open sand below has no seam in it, no shadow a man can slip through unseen. The gunner's left hand hangs loose. He is not excited. That is the thing you notice, watching from the water. There is no urgency in the way these men move. The forward observer, 2 bays along, is on one knee beside his field telephone, the handset pressed to his ear, running a thumbnail along the edge of a wooden post. A line runs from his phone back through a shallow trench in the chalk, the cable sitting in 4 inches of scraped earth, routed around the blind side of the emplacement and back toward the mortar position behind the crest. The line is one of several. If this one cuts, there is another. If both cut, there is a runner. Below the forward observer's position, down the forward face of the bluff, the third man sits in a small dugout shelf in the chalk, with a set of range cards on a wooden board across his knees. The beach is gridded in his mind. He knows what the sand looks like at 200 yards and at 300 yards and at the waterline. He has looked at it every morning for weeks. Further along the ridge, east of St. Laurent, a battery of 75 sits in revetted pits behind the crest, their barrels already elevated to pre-registered angles. The crews are at their guns, not moving, not talking much. One man is eating something from a cloth, methodically, jaw working. Down at the waterline, the first pale curl of surf breaks across the legs of a hedgehog and runs up the dark sand and pulls back again. The beach is emptied. It is still empty, but the shapes on the water are larger now, and they are resolving slowly into what they are. The man with the field telephone says something quiet into the handset. The gunner's left hand comes up and finds the grip. The craft rocks, port, then starboard, and port again, slow and heavy, the way a large thing moves when the sea is patient. The diesel beneath your boots is a low, continuous hum that travels up through your legs and into your chest, and sits there, steady, the way a held note sits in a quiet room. You feel it more than hear it. Your pack is heavy on your shoulders, the straps press down through your wet gear, and you let the weight of it settle. Stop fighting it. Your neck loosens, your jaw loosens. The man to your left is not moving. The man to your right has his eyes half closed, chin toward his chest. Nobody is talking. Your breath comes out in a small cloud and dissolves, in, out. The craft drops into a trough and rises again. And the motion is not violent, not now, just a long, slow lift and a long, slow fall like something enormous breathing beneath you. Your eyelids are heavy. The wool at your collar is beginning to hold some warmth back from your skin, thin and animal, yours. The diesel hum is underneath everything. The ramp is still up. The ramp is still up, and the beach is still ahead, and there is nothing required of you in this exact moment. Just the rocking, just the hum, just the weight of the men around you, their shoulders against yours, their breath clouding and clearing in the gray air, the whole craft rising, the whole craft falling. Your fingers loosen around the grip of your rifle. Your shoulders drop a half inch. The horizon tilts and rights itself, and you watch it without urgency, a dark line of the coast moving up and down in the frame of the ramp's top edge. Up and down, slow as a breath, slow as someone shifts behind you. The craft's bow swings a degree east, and the engine note changes, just slightly, a lower register coming in under the hum, and the man at the front exhales once through his nose. Sharp. You straighten. The beach is closer. The pale strip of it is wider now, and the bluffs behind it have texture. You can see the scrub grass on the chalk, the dark rectangles of the apertures, the geometry of what is waiting. Your fingers find the grip again. Somewhere above the overcast, there are bombers. You cannot see them. The cloud sits at perhaps 2,000 feet, a solid gray ceiling, and the sound of the engines is absorbed by it, diffuse, directionless, a vibration more than a sound, felt in the sternum before it reaches the ears. 329 B-24 Liberators, carrying the weight of the pre-landing bombardment that is supposed to cut the wire, crater the strong points, leave the men on the bluff, dazed and bleeding before a single ramp drops. The bombardiers have orders to delay release by 30 seconds to avoid hitting the landing craft below the cloud. 30 seconds at bombing speed is over a mile. The loads will fall into empty fields, beyond the ridge, into Norman farmland, into earth that holds no gun and no man worth killing. The craters will be dug in the wrong places, and the cows that survive will stand at the edge of them looking in. The strong points on the bluff will not be touched. The MG-42s will not be knocked from their mounts. The men at the range cards will not be buried. None of this is visible from the water. From the water, the overcast is simply the overcast, and the sound above it is the sound of something large happening on your behalf. You believe it is helping. 20 miles offshore and before first light, General Dwight Eisenhower's order was already irrevocable. He gave it the night before in a Nissen hut at Southwick House, outside Portsmouth, while the meteorologist read him a narrow window in the weather. A brief clearing, not ideal, possible. The Eisenhower sat for a long moment with his hands on the table, and then said the words that could not be unsaid. Okay, we'll go. The machinery of it. The convoys, the sealed orders, the 5 beaches, the airborne drops already in the dark above the hedgerows, was already in motion before the sentence finished. Now it has been in motion all night, and it cannot stop. General Omar Bradley is on the heavy cruiser Augusta, offshore among the gun flashes and the radio traffic, watching reports arrive and trying to read a battle he cannot yet see through the haze and smoke. He has no way to know, not yet, that the tanks are going under. The D.D. Shermans, duplex drive, their canvas screens meant to float them to the waterline, were launched from their tank landing craft in seas higher than the design assumed. The waves come over the screens. The screens collapse. The tanks go straight down. Hatches sealed. Men inside, 30 feet of green water closing over them. Of the 32 tanks launched toward Omaha, 27 sink before they reach shallow water. The 5 that make it are nearly all that will arrive on the incoming craft. The men do not know this either. They are expecting armor on the beach ahead of them. They are expecting cratered ground and stunned defenders, and a shore already worked over. The current has been pushing east for the last hour, steady and indifferent, and the craft are no longer precisely where the charts said they would be. Companies that trained together on specific sectors of specific beach are arriving in front of different bluffs, different gun positions, different men with different range cards. The plan was detailed, and the plan was good, and the plan is coming apart in the water. At 0630, the ramps will drop. The guns on the bluff above Omaha are intact, their crews rested, their fields of fire unchanged, waiting for the pale strip of sand below to fill with men. The craft rocks, port, then starboard. The diesel hum underneath everything, steady and low, the vibration traveling up through your boots and into your shins, and settling somewhere behind your sternum, where it just sits, warm and dull and constant. The bluffs are ahead. They are always ahead. But for this, one moment they are simply a dark line at the edge of the pale water, not yet demanding anything from you. The ramp is still up. The cold metal of it is 6 inches from your face, and you can smell the rust on it, the salt, the machine oil worked into every joint by hands you will never know. You put your palm flat against it. It is very cold. It does not move. The craft rises on a long, slow swell, holds at the top for a breath, comes down. The man to your left has stopped shifting. The man to your right breathes steadily, his shoulder warm against yours through 2 layers of wet wool. You let some of your weight go into that contact, just slightly, just enough to feel it. The wool smells of the sea and of sleep, and of the particular exhaustion that comes from a body that has been afraid for many hours and is now simply tired. Your eyes are heavy. The horizon tilts up in the gap above the ramp's edge, tilts back down. The gray water catches the earliest gray of the pre-dawn and holds it for a moment, flat and still between swells. And in that stillness, the beach ahead is just a shape, and just a pale suggestion at the edge of the world. Not yet real, not yet asking. Your breath slows in through the nose, the salt air, the cold, the diesel underneath, out through the mouth, long, unhurried. The craft rises again, and somewhere in the lifting there is a question you've been carrying without putting words to it. Into this morning, onto this beach, with its intact guns and its patient gunners, and its 4 miles of open sand. What if something had already moved through the dark ahead of you? What if 30 shadows had slipped into the water the night before the moon was fully down, and gone quietly toward the bluffs? The craft falls, the question hangs. Your eyes close. You wake to cold grass against your cheek. Not sleep. You weren't sleeping. Your body simply left for a moment and came back. The ground pulled you in. Wet soil, the smell of crushed clover and chalk beneath it, the particular mineral cold of Norman earth in the small hours of June. Your cheek is numb where it pressed the grass. You lift your head a fraction and the world assembles itself again. The channel is behind you, a sheet of dull pewter under overcast, no moon to speak of. No stars. The cloud ceiling sits low and gray and total, and under it, the water is just a texture, just a suggestion of movement, stretching back into the dark towards something you know is there but cannot see. 30 ships, 1,000 ships, 5,000 ships. The armada is out there in the black, engines throttled back, men standing in the cold just as you are lying in it, waiting for a number. 0630. That is still hours away. You do not move. 2 meters to your left, Petty Officer Chen lies in the grass with his night vision monocular pressed to his face, scanning the ridgeline south. Past him, 2 more shapes, flat and still. Past them, 2 more, scattered in pairs across 80 meters of plateau, pressed into the earth like they grew there. 30 men in gear that will not exist for another half-century, lying above a beach that is about to become the most expensive 4 miles in American history. This is the hinge. Not a story, not a theory. This. The wet grass, the smell of chalk, the weight of your plate carrier pressing you into the Norman soil. Somewhere below the bluff edge, a Colville draw cuts down to the sand, and at its base, a wider stand's nest sits behind reinforced concrete, with a field of fire that covers 300 yards of beach. You have a rough sketch of it from reconnaissance photographs, and from something else, knowledge that should not exist here, knowledge of what happens this morning if nothing changes. You know about the tanks, you know they go under. You know about the current pushing the craft east. You know the bombers drop long into empty fields. You know what the sand looks like at 0700, with the tide coming in, and the shingle bank 30 yards away, and the MG-42s working at grazing height. That knowledge sits in your chest like a stone. 30 of you. 4 miles of fortified bluff. 1 platoon against 1 reinforced division of combat veterans, with pre-registered mortar coordinates and interlocking fields of fire and concrete between them and your ammunition. The honest accounting doesn't change. You cannot hold ground. You cannot replace naval gunfire. You cannot move 2,000 bodies off a beach with 30 rifles and finite magazines and satchel charges that will run out before breakfast, but you can work a draw. You can cut a wire. You can open a specific door at a specific moment, so that when the men come up from the surf, if they come up, there is one less gun tracking them, one less forward observer calling coordinates into a field telephone, one less position sewn shut. The lieutenant shifts 2 meters to your right. He doesn't speak, and he lifts 2 fingers toward the draw and then settles back into the earth. You check your rifle, magazine seated, suppressor tight. The channel behind you is invisible and enormous, and out there in the dark, across the flat pewter water, the Armada is crossing toward you. 4 hours. The grass is very cold and very wet, and you do not move. The swim was 40 minutes, and you remember it the way you remember things that hurt, in fragments, in the body rather than the mind. The water temperature was somewhere around 13 degrees Celsius, cold enough that your hands went wooden in the first 10 minutes. The dry suit doing its work, but not enough of it, the swell lifting you and dropping you in the dark, while the CRRC pulled further away and became nothing. And then the coast was just a black shape, and then it was a cliff, and then your hands found the rope. The lead pair had gone in 90 minutes ahead. Petty Officer Okafor and Chief Alvarez, swimming a line to the base of the bluff west of the Colleville Draw, fixing anchors into the chalk face in the dark by feel alone, running rope, up 70 feet of near vertical terrain, without a sound, and without a light. You don't think about what that took. You just climbed what they left you. The submarine had set you off 4 miles out, inside the weather window, inside the noise of the pre-invasion surface traffic that gave the approach some cover. You came in on 3 CRRCs, combat rubber raiding crafts, 10 men per boat, gear lashed and waterproofed, as well as gear can be waterproofed when it has to breathe and move and fire. You swam the last 500 meters because the boats couldn't come closer without the surf noise. And 500 meters in 13-degree water with a full combat load is a long swim. Everyone made it up the rope. That was the first thing that could have gone wrong and didn't. Now you are here, in the wet grass, and you are carrying exactly what came out of the water with you. 6 magazines per man, standard load, except standard load assumes resupply, and resupply is not coming. 180 rounds for your rifle. You do the arithmetic and it is not reassuring. Across the platoon, roughly 5,400 rounds, distributed, finite, and every engagement you pick will cost from that number permanently. 4 breaching charges, split 2 and 2 across Alpha and Bravo elements, enough to open reinforced doors or blow a crew-served weapon off its mount, if the geometry is right and you can place them without being shot first. 2 satchels of demolitions, plastic explosive, time fuse, detonators, the specific components chosen for weight and utility, divided between Sergeant Reyes and Petty Officer Nakamura, who have been carrying 20 extra pounds since the submarine. Those satchels are for the communications nodes, the landlines running between the strong points along the ridge. And if they find the junction box, the reconnaissance photographs suggested near the Colleville command post. For that, suppressors on every rifle. Each one rated for a number of rounds before the internals degrade and the signature climbs. Not infinite, not even generous. 4 sets of night vision. Batteries measured in hours, not days, and the hours are already running. Medical kit per man, tourniquets, hemostatic gauze, chest seals, morphine, enough to keep someone alive long enough to matter, or not matter, depending on what the morning brings. No radio link to the fleet that anyone in the fleet will understand or respond to. No extraction window until after H hour, if there is one at all. You are not a division. You are 30 people in wet clothes on a chalk bluff, with a counted number of everything. And the counted number is what it is. The weight of your rig tells you the truth every time you shift your hips against the ground. The lieutenant moves his hand again. 2 fingers. South. You move. The trench smells of tobacco and wet cement, and something animal. Unwashed wool. Bodies sleeping in shifts. The particular funk of men who have been living inside concrete for weeks. You stop moving. 3 meters ahead, the trench lip curves left toward the embrasure. The MG-42 is inside it. You can hear the faint mechanical presence of it. Nothing so loud as sound. Just the sense of mass and metal in the dark. The way a room feels different when something large and purposeful occupies it. A generator hums, somewhere below and behind the main block. A low cycling vibration you feel more in your chest than hear with your ears. Petty Officer Chen is 2 feet to your right, moving on hands and knees through the grass with a patience that looks like stillness. You both stop at the same moment, not a signal, just the same information arriving in both bodies at the same instant. Someone is breathing inside the trench, not asleep. The rhythm is too irregular, too aware. Sentry sitting with his back against the forward wall, facing the channel, watching nothing. There is nothing to see in this dark. The overcast total and flat, but present, awake enough. Rifle across his knees, probably. You can't see him. You can hear the small shift of his boot against chalk. You wait. 30 seconds. A minute. The generator cycles. Below the bluff, the surf moves against the sand in a slow, patient rhythm. Over and over. Indifferent. The boot shifts again, the long exhale. And the particular silence of a man who has decided not to move for a while. Chen goes left. You go right, lower, belly to the ground now, elbows pulling you forward 1 careful inch at a time. The trench lip is rough concrete edged with sandbags, and along its inner face a wire runs. Field telephone cable, gray rubber insulation stapled at intervals into the concrete with the casual permanence of something no one expected to need to remove. You trace it with 2 fingers without pulling. Follow it 6 inches. Date. Find the staple. Find the next. The phone line runs back toward the command post at Colville. You know this from the photograph. You know where it goes if you cut it. 1 node of the web goes dark. And the man at the Colville post who is supposed to receive a situation report at 0530 will get silence instead. And the silence will mean either nothing happened or something went wrong. And for a few minutes, he will not know which. A few minutes is what you are buying. That is the currency available. You open the cutter with your thumb, position the jaw against the cable and cut. The sound is nothing. A tick. The sentry's boot does not move. Chen is already at the embrasure flank, a concrete shoulder where the bunker wall meets the trench. The geometry tight enough that the charge, when it goes, will push force inward through the opening, rather than out. He works with both hands, deliberate, pressing the charge flush, running the fuse back along the ground, setting the timer for a number that is not now. The number is keyed to H-hour. To the moment the ramps drop and the men hit the surf, and the MG-42 needs to not be working. He taps your ankle once. Done. You both move back through the grass the way you came, slow and flat and patient, the trench smell fading behind you, the generator hum receding into the background noise of wind and surf, and the vast, indifferent dark, 1 strong point marked. The bluff stretches 4 miles in each direction, and you have 5 satchels left, and the night is already thinning at its edges. You settle into the earth. Not a choice. The body making its own decision, the way it does when it has been moving hard and then stops. Your elbows are in the grass. Your chin is down. The cold has soaked through the knees of your trousers and the front of your shirt. and it should be uncomfortable, and it is. Distantly, the way pain is distant, when there is nothing to do about it. And you breathe out slowly. The grass smells of chalk and rain, and something green and alive that has nothing to do with any of this. The earth beneath you is solid. It presses back against your chest with each inhale, a slow, even pressure, and you match your breath to it without meaning to. Around you, the platoon is doing the same thing. 13 shapes pressed into the plateau. 2 more at the next bound already, everyone moving in the long, unhurried rhythm that night work demands. No rushing. Rushing is noise. Noise is the end of everything. Your eyes are open, but there is very little to see. The overcast holds. The dark is a soft, total thing, pressing gently at the edges of your night vision. The green-gray world it shows you empty of movement. Just grass and chalk and the far dark line of the ridge. A channel breathes below. You can hear it without looking. The surf coming in and pulling back, coming in and pulling back. The same sound it has made for 10,000 years, and will make long after the morning is over, and whatever the morning becomes is finished becoming it. A steady sound, a patient one. Your heartbeat is slowing. You feel it in your throat, in your wrists, the pulse dropping back towards something ordinary. The cold in your knees is just cold now, just a fact of the ground, not urgent. Your eyelids have weight to them, not danger. You know the difference. Just the body asking, briefly, for something it isn't going to get. You give it 30 seconds. The warmth that has been building inside your rig, trapped between wet clothes and plate carrier, spreads a fraction. Your shoulders drop a half inch. 30 seconds. The lieutenant's hand moves in the dark. Time to go. The lieutenant's map is a square of paper no bigger than your palm, marked in grease pencil, memorized and destroyed before the swim. What remains is inside his head and inside yours. 4 named draws, the rough positions of 9 Widerstands Nestor, 2 field telephone trunks, and the approximate location of the forward observer post above the Les Moulins draw, where someone with binoculars and a radio will spend the morning calling adjustment fires onto the sand. 9 strong points, 30 men. You do the division and set it aside. Alpha element peels west along the ridgeline toward Les Moulins. Petty Officer Torres leading, 4 men behind him, moving in a low file through the grass, with a particular economy of people who have done this enough times that silence is not effort anymore. It is simply how they move. Their target is the observation post and whatever cable feeds it south. Behind them, a 2-man sniper pair, Okafor and Petty Officer Diaz, breaks off the line and dissolves into the terrain. Looking for the ground, they need elevation, a sight line to the forward observer positions, and enough distance to work without being found. They don't speak, they just go. Bravo element is already southeast. Above Saint Laurent, Chief Alvarez has 4 men and 1 of the remaining satchels, and the specific task of finding the field telephone trunk that runs back from the ridge network toward General Lieutenant Kreis's regimental command post inland. Not the local cable stapled to bunker walls, the trunk line, the one that carries the picture. Cut it, and the defenders lose coherence. Briefly, at the moment, coherence matters most. Briefly, you keep coming back to that word. You move with the remaining 8 toward the WN-62 position above the eastern end of the beach. The one the photograph shows the deepest problem. 2 MG-42 emplacements sighted to enfilade the tide line from the east, with concrete protection and a prepared trench system running back from the embrasures. You have 1 breaching charge left after the Colville placement. 1. Sergeant Reyes moves up beside you without a word, and you both already know the conversation. 1 charge means 1 door. 1 door means 1 gun. The second emplacement stays intact because it has to. because the arithmetic does not care what you want. You pick the eastern gun, the one whose field of fire covers the widest run of open sand. And Reyes nods, and that is the decision made. What you cannot touch sits at the edge of every choice, like a weight you carry without carrying it. The pre-registered mortars on the reverse slope are out of reach. Too far inland, too many bodies between here and there, and reaching them would spend the whole platoon for one target before H-hour even arrives. The 75mm batteries at the draw flanks sit behind wire and manned positions, and approaching them costs more rounds than you have. The obstacles on the sand, the hedgehogs, the mined stakes, the Belgian gates, you never had a plan for those. That was always the UDT swimmers' work, and the UDT swimmers are not here. You are choosing between the wall's weak points and leaving the rest of the wall standing, and the rest of the wall is most of it. The grass is wet, the dark is thinning, almost imperceptibly, a shade above the eastern horizon that is not yet light but is the memory of light, the suggestion that light is coming. The H-hour is 2 hours away. You move toward WN-62 with 8 men in one charge and counted magazines, and the beach 400 feet below is still empty and still dark and still waiting. The eastern sky is not yet light. It is the absence of dark, a different quality to the black above the horizon, a softening, the night losing its certainty. You watch it from the grass, and your breath comes slow and even, and makes no sound. The platoon has gone still, all of it, at once, by feel. The way of fire dies down, without anyone deciding. 12 men pressed into the chalk plateau in a loose perimeter, weapons up but not urgent, faces turned toward the ridge or the sky, or nothing in particular. Waiting, the kind of waiting that is not tension, but its opposite. The body understanding that movement is finished for now, and letting go of it. Your jaw unclenches, and you hadn't noticed it was clenched. The surf below is the same as it has always been tonight. Patient, indifferent, coming in, pulling back. Somewhere out in the channel, invisible, enormous, already turning toward the shore. The bombardment fleet is finding its range. You know it is there. You cannot hear it yet. The silence before the naval guns open is a specific kind of silence, weighted like a held breath belonging to something much larger than you. You settle your cheek against the stock of your rifle, and your eyelids carry the whole weight of the night. Not sleeping. Your mind stays soft and loose but present, the way it does in the deep water of a long op, when the body takes what rest it can in the margins. The cold in the earth beneath you has become familiar. Your legs are heavy. Your shoulders have dropped without you asking them to. The plate carrier presses you gently into the ground, and the ground pushes back, steady, solid, a slow, even pressure like a hand between the shoulder blades. Breathe in. The gray above the horizon spreads one shade further, a seam of pale against the dark. Breathe out. The guns will come. The ramps will drop. The morning will become what the morning becomes. But right now the grass is still, and the dark is soft, and the world has not moved in several minutes, and your heartbeat is slow and far away, and the channel breathes below you, in and out. The light is coming. You wait. You wake with your face against wet chalk and grass, and for a moment there is nothing, no sound, no light, no war. Just the cold seam of ground pressed against your cheekbone, and the slow return of your own breathing. Then the world tears open. The first broadside hits the air before it hits your ears. A cruiser offshore, then another, then the destroyers running in close. You feel it in your sternum before your brain names it, a concussion that moves through the earth and up through your ribs. You roll to your elbows. The cloud base above the channel flashes orange-white in long pulses. The light traveling faster than the sound, so the horizon blinks and blinks again, and then the sound arrives. Not a boom, not an explosion, but something deeper and longer, a tearing, the sky ripping along a seam that doesn't close. Shells pass overhead with a freight train pull that you feel in your back teeth. 0550, 40 minutes to H hour. The lieutenant is already up, crouched at the hedge, 2 fingers raised. The signal travels down the line without a word spoken. The first charge goes at 0551. You hear it below and to your left. Not loud, not dramatic, a flat crack that the naval fire swallows almost completely. And then the embrasure above Dog White goes dark. The MG-42 that had been angled to rake the sand from the western flank does not fire again. 1 gun, the second charge. Chen's, the one he set before midnight with a timer keyed to H hour minus 40. It fires 11 seconds later. The concrete lip above the eastern WN 62 emplacement fractures inward. You see dust in the gun flash, silence from that position, at least for now. Somewhere behind you and south, Bravo element has cut the trunk line to 2 cables severed. A section of the German telephone network between the Ridge and Colleville will be passing silence down the wire when the calls come in. The forward observer, the one with the range cards, Okafor dealt with him at 0430, quietly, in the dark, and that position has been still since. You take inventory the way you were trained to. Name what is true, not what you want to be true. 2 embrasures out of roughly 35 prepared positions along this 4-mile arc. 2 cable cuts in a network that also runs wire and has runners and has radios. 1 forward observer in a section that has at least 4 more who can read the same beach with the same pre-registered fires. The MG-4, 2 positions to the west of Les Moulins are intact. The guns covering the Vierville draw are intact. The 75mm batteries on the flanks are intact. The beach obstacles are intact. Every hedgehog, every mine stake, every Belgian gate standing in the tide that is now coming in and covering them. The infantry waiting in those bunkers, the men from the 352nd who came west from Russia and know what a morning like this smells like, are awake and at their weapons, and have been for an hour. The bombardment rolls on overhead, tremendous, relentless, and the strong points you could not reach sit inside it untouched, their apertures turned toward the sea, their gunners pressed against their stocks. You press your back against the hedge, and the chalk crumbles cold against your neck, and the guns shake the air above you and below. In the dark of the channel, the Higgins boats are already turning for shore. 0625. You see them from the bluff. They come in rows, the Higgins boats, dark rectangles cutting white wakes through gray water. And there are so many of them that the surface of the channel looks like a city moving. The ramps are still up. You cannot see the faces inside, but you know what is in there. Men standing chest to chest, soaked through, rifles held above their heads or pressed to their chests, some of them vomiting from the chop, some of them praying, all of them 5 minutes from the sand. The big red one, the 29th. Boys from Virginia and Pennsylvania and Kansas who trained in England and crossed the Atlantic in transport ships and have been awake since midnight. Overhead, the B-24s come through the overcast in long formations, their engines a layered drone above the naval fire. You track them east, and further east still, the bomb loads releasing late through cloud, and then nothing. No secondary explosions on the bluffs, no dust rising from the strong points, no silence from the guns. The fields a mile inland absorb it all without consequence. The strong points you could not reach, the ones you never had the men or the charges to touch, sit exactly as they were built, concrete, Steel, loaded. Offshore, the destroyers still run close, their guns depressing as far as they'll go, shells skipping the tops of the bluffs and passing over it. It is not nothing, but it is not the bunkers. You find the LCT further out, the one carrying the DD Shermans, the flotilla that was meant to float the tanks in ahead of the infantry. You watch one Sherman's canvas screen collapse in a trough, then another. The tank takes 4 seconds to go under, then a third. A sea is running 3-foot swells with white caps, and the modified tanks were designed for calmer water, and the men who made that call this morning did not have what you have. They could not see what you see from this bluff. And so the tanks go down, and the beach ahead of the first wave is going to be open sand with no armor and no cover, and the MG-42s, whose barrels you can see from here, traversing slow and ready, have a clean field. You get on your knee. Chen is beside you. Ray is 2 meters left, watching the Vierville draw. The boats are close now, close enough to see individual wakes braiding together, close enough to see a ramp chain glinting. The guns on your left open first, the ones at WN-72, the ones you never reached, because the night and the chalk and the wire and the 4 miles between them and your insertion point made it impossible. They open clean, exactly as sighted, the fire grazing the waterline in long flat bursts. And the sound of them is nothing like the naval guns. It is a tearing sound, rapid, mechanical, intimate, a sound that belongs to a much smaller space than this open gray morning. You hear the first ramps drop below. Somewhere out there, on the bridge of the Augusta, General Bradley stands with a pair of binoculars, and the first reports are already wrong. The tanks are gone. The beach is on fire. The units are east of where they should be, and he cannot see what you can see, and you cannot stop what he is watching. And the men coming ashore in that first terrible minute are stepping into something that 30 rifles on a bluff did not have the mass to change. The quiet. You watch the ramps drop. You watch the men run forward. 0630. The ramps drop and the sound changes. Naval fire, bomber drone, the long tearing of the destroyers, all of it continues. But underneath it now, there is something else, a different register, and your body knows it before your mind names it. Small arms. Dozens of positions opening at once. The bluffs alive with it, muzzle flash strobing from apertures the bombardment never touched. You stay low and you watch. The western edge of Easy Red is directly below you, and to the left, 200 meters of sand between the shingle and the surf. You know that sector, and you know it, because Chen's charge took the eastern WN-62 emplacement, and because the forward observer at the chalk outcrop above that section has been still since 0430. The gun that should be raking that waterline with grazing fire, the one whose barrel depression and traverse you memorized from aerial photographs in a briefing room that smelled of coffee and dry erase marker. That gun is not firing. The men coming off the ramps into that sector run forward, and some of them fall, caught by fire from the flanks, from the surviving positions further west. But they keep moving, more of them than should be possible. A sergeant, you can see him by the way he moves, turning back, waving his arm, gets his squad to the shingle bank. Then another group, the cluster of men with a Browning, reach the bank and go flat. And they are alive, and the gun above them is not firing, because last night in the dark and the cold, a timer clicked over, and concrete fractured inward, and that position went silent. And these men do not know why, will never know why, are only grateful for the ground beneath them and the bank in front of them. You hold that. You hold it exactly as it is. Then you look right. Dog red, the next sector east, where the beach curves and the bluff angles down, and WN-65 sits intact and untouched, because you never had the charges, or the men, or the night to reach it. The boats come in, and the ramps drop, and the MG-42 opens from its pre-sighted line. And the fire is exactly as the German planners drew it on their range cards, grazing ankle to chest height, sweeping the waterline in a flat horizontal plane. Men step off into it. Some go straight down into the surf. Some make it 3 steps, 5 steps, 10 steps, and then the traverse catches them, a cluster of helmets visible above a wave trough. And then not. The boats keep coming. More ramps, more men. You track back left. The sergeant at the shingle bank is organizing. He has 8 men, maybe 10, and they are pressed against the stones, and they are breathing, and they are looking up at the bluff, and they are trying to work out what comes next. They are alive in a place where men were supposed to die in the water. You look right. The surf at Dog Red is dark in patches. Both things are true, and neither one cancels the other. And that is the hardest thing. Not the cold, not the weight, not the 40-minute swim or the chalk or the wire or the night. The hardest thing is holding the sergeant at the shingle bank in the same thought as what is happening 200 meters to his right, feeling the weight of both without letting either one become a verdict. Chen is flat beside you. He is watching too. His jaw is set. Neither of you speaks, and you press your face into the grass, just for a moment. Just this. The ground is cold and wet, and smells of chalk and something older. Salt, maybe, or the particular mineral damp of Norman earth that has been Norman earth for 1,000 years before this morning. You turn your cheek against it, and close your eyes, and the battle continues above you. The naval guns, the small arms, the tearing sound from the bluffs to the west, all of it still present. But with your face against the ground, it becomes something almost abstract. Vibration, pressure, weather. You breathe in through your nose. Slow. Count 4. Hold it. Your rifle rests across your forearms, its weight familiar now. The way a carried thing becomes part of the body after long enough. The suppressor is worn near the muzzle, cool at the stock. You feel the magazine pressed against the earth beneath the receiver. Out through the mouth. Count 4. Your shoulders drop a ½ inch. You didn't know they were raised. The grass against your cheek is very fine. It bends without breaking. Somewhere just behind your right ear, a stem ticks against another in a small wind off the channel. And that sound, that one tiny sound, is more present to you right now than anything else. The guns are enormous and far away. The grass stem ticking is here. You have not slept in 22 hours. Your legs know it. Your eyes know it most of all. A heaviness behind them that is not pain exactly, more like pressure. Like the lids want to make a decision your brain won't sanction. The cold kept you sharp. Through the swim, through the climb, through the long dark hours of movement. Across the plateau. But lying still now, even for these seconds, the exhaustion finds the gaps. Another breath. In. Hold. Out. Chen hasn't moved. Reyes hasn't moved. The grass around you holds the shape of 30 men who have learned to become part of the ground they lie on. The battle is still there. You know what it holds, and you know what the next hour will demand. But for this breath, this one controlled exhale, your body is just a body on a hillside. Heavy, still, breathing. The lieutenant's hand comes up, 2 fingers. Then a flat palm facing south. Second phase. You peel off the hedge and move along the reverse slope, away from the bluff edge, staying below the skyline. The ground here is softer, churned by last night's rain, and your boots find no purchase on the chalk beneath. You move. Anyway, everyone moves. The platoon breaks into its elements without a word, the way water finds separate channels down the same hillside. To the east, Okafor and Diaz are already gone. You heard nothing from their position since 0540. And that silence is exactly right. I found the elevated ground above the Colville, draw before first light, a lip of chalk with a clear reverse angle on the German observation posts, sighted along the bluff. And you don't know what they're doing now, but you know what the plan was, and you trust the silence, the way you trust a sealed hatch. The answer comes 3 minutes later. 2 shots, suppressed, separated by 4 seconds. Then a third. The sound reaches you as a dry tap, like someone knocking on a hollow door, and then nothing. You check your watch without slowing. 0634. The battle on the beach is 4 minutes old, and the forward observer above, Easy Red's eastern flank, the one with binoculars and a field radio, and a direct line to the 350 seconds artillery, is not calling in anymore. You don't know how many lives that silence buys. You can't calculate it. You keep moving. The 4-man element is already at the trench. Reyes leads it. You can see him at the near end, flat against the chalk wall, Petty Officer Walsh behind him, the other 2 stacked and ready. The trench runs west to east, along the reverse slope, before it doglegs north toward the Vireville draw, and it is the only covered approach to that draw from the interior, which means it is also the approach the Germans would use to reinforce or counterattack whatever tries to come up from the beach. Reyes goes in. You watch the entry point and count your own heartbeats. 12 seconds. 15. The figure appears at the far end of the trench, moving wrong. Too fast. Not crouching. And then it stops, and Reyes's element flows past it and keeps moving. They reach the dogleg. They hold the lip. The Vireville draw opens below them, to narrow, steep-sided, rutted by cart tracks. The one gap in the bluffs at the western end of the beach, where a vehicle could theoretically climb from sand to plateau. It is clogged with wire and a steel gate, and 2 dead men who got there before the war started and never left. But the draw is there. The gap is there. Below it, on the beach, the sand is chaos and smoke, and the tidal flat is still 300 yards of no cover ground under fire. But at the shingle bank, you can see it from the lip, barely through smoke. There are more men than there were. Clusters, pressed flat. Alive. A naval gunfire is moving. That is the real thing happening now. The thing that was always going to happen once the fleet got eyes on the bluffs. Destroyers running so close inshore their keels are scraping sand. Their fire walking up the slope. Shells finding apertures and angles that the bombardment never reached. You feel each one in the ground under your boots. The bluff shakes. Somewhere to your left, an emplacement you never touched goes quiet under a direct hit. The morning is working, slowly, terribly, at a cost that has no number yet. But working, the guns continue. You know this because the ground still shakes beneath your sternum, because the horizon still pulses orange at the edge of your vision. But something has changed in how you receive it. The sound has moved further away, without the source moving at all. It is the exhaustion doing it. 23 hours now, maybe more. Pulling everything to a middle distance, softening the hard edges, wrapping the battle in something that is almost quiet. You are flat against the slope. Your rifle is across your forearms. The chalk is cold through your jacket, but not unpleasant anymore. Just present, just there, the way a floor is there beneath a bed. Your legs have stopped reporting. They were reporting all night. The swim, the climb, the miles of wet grass in the dark, each muscle sending its small grievance upward. Now they have gone still. The weight of your body has found the ground, and the ground has accepted it, and there is a kind of negotiation in that, a settling, the way a stone finds its final position in a riverbed. Your eyes are open. Mostly open. The smoke above the draw drifts east on a slow wind, and the light is gray, and even now, the sun not yet through the overcast, and the color of the sky is the color of the inside of a shell, pale and curved and very far up. You think about the magazines on your belt. 3 left, full, 2 partial. The suppressor is run warm and cooled again twice. The satchel is empty. There are no more charges, no more cable cuts pre-planned. No extraction window for hours yet. 30 rifles and whatever the day asks of them. The thought arrives without urgency. It is simply true. The way the tide is true, the way the beach is 4 miles long, and you are 30 men. The guns roll on somewhere beyond your hearing. The grass stem ticks against your cheek. Your next breath comes slower than the last one, and the one after slower still, and the weight behind your eyes is warm now rather than sharp, a heaviness that belongs to the body and not to fear. The oldest heaviness, the one that asks nothing of you except to stop. The slope holds you. The morning continues without your help. You wake face down on the shingle. The stones are gray and small, and they have printed themselves into your cheek. Your mouth is full of salt. Something is pressing on your left leg. A pack, someone else's, webbing still buckled, owner not attached. You lift your head. 0940, 6 June 1944. St. Laurent Draw, Omaha Beach. The noise is the first thing, not a single sound, but a layering of sounds so dense it has become weather. The crack of rifles from the bluffs, the deeper percussion of mortars walking the sand, the continuous iron tearing of an MG-42 somewhere to your right. And underneath all of it, the sea, still coming in, indifferent, pushing spent brass and kapok and worse things up the slope with every wave. You are an infantryman. 29th Division, probably, or 1st. It barely matters now. Your unit landed somewhere east of where it was supposed to. The current took the boat, a ramp dropped in chest-deep water, and what happened between the water line and this shingle bank is a sequence of movements you performed without deciding to perform them. You are here. That is the sum of it. You get your elbows under you. The bank is 4 feet of loose gray stones, steep enough to stop a vehicle, tall enough to stop a bullet grazing flat across the sand. Every man who has made it this far is pressed against it, shoulder to shoulder in places, bodies overlapping where the gaps are narrow. Some are working bolts, feeding rounds, peering over the crest in short, careful looks. Some are on their backs, staring at the overcast sky. With the specific stillness, that means they have stopped needing anything. A sergeant 3 men down is bleeding from his left hand and does not appear to have noticed. He is talking into a field telephone that has no wire attached to it. His lips keep moving. You check your rifle. Sand in the action. You work it clear with your thumb. Run the bolt. Check the chamber. The magazine is half empty. You have 2 more on your belt, and 1 in your jacket pocket that got wet in the surf, and may or may not feed cleanly. The draw is 20 yards to your left. It is narrow and steep, and there is wire across it, and a burned-out vehicle has been pushed sideways across the lower entrance. But men are moving into it. Not many. A handful. Someone has cut the wire. Not recently. The cuts are already oxidizing at the ends. And there is a path through the obstacles, narrow, marked with a strip of cloth tied to a stake that you do not recognize as any standard marking your training covered. You do not know who made that path. You do not know that 30 men spent the dark hours on the bluff above you, that the cable running to the observation post above the draw was severed before dawn, that the forward observer, who would have called the mortar coordinates onto this exact stretch of shingle, is no longer at his post. You only know the path is there. The sergeant stops moving his lips. He looks at the draw. He looks at the men closest to him. Up. His voice is almost nothing under the noise, but his arm moves, pointing up. Your legs find the ground beneath you. The shingle shifts and slides, and your boots punch through it, looking for something solid. Around you, other men are rising, slowly, heavily, the way men rise when they are not sure their legs will answer, but they are going to find out. The draw is 20 yards away. You move toward it. The draw swallows you. The walls are chalk and clay, close enough to touch on both sides if you spread your arms. The burned vehicle is a half-track, its paint blistered off, and the gap beside it is just wide enough for one man at a time moving sideways. You go through it, sideways. The man behind you does the same. Wire in 2 places, both cut. The ends curl outward like something uncoiling in slow motion, and the cuts are clean, not breached by a Bangalore, not blown, just snipped, methodical, the kind of work done quietly in the dark by someone who had time and tools and knew exactly where to put the blades. You do not think about this. You move. The slope is steep enough that you are using your hands before the first bend, grabbing at roots and chalk outcrops, the rifle slung across your back. The man ahead of you is breathing hard through his teeth. He loses a foothold and slides back into you, and you catch him by the collar, and he nods once, doesn't speak, keeps climbing. Behind you, the beach is still happening. The MG-42, a dog red, is still tearing intervals into the surf. Mortars are still walking the sand, but the gun that would cover this draw, the emplacement that overlooks this exact angle of approach, is quiet. Has been quiet since before dawn. You don't know why. You don't question it. Quiet is a gift, and you climb into it. At the first bend, there is a body. German, young, from the look of it. The back of his coat has a dark stain spreading into the chalk dust beneath him. He has been here for hours. The cold has already done its work on his color. No marks of a firefight, no spent brass around him. He simply stopped being a problem sometime before H hour. You step past him. The top comes without warning. The draw opens onto scrub grass, and the plateau spreads out gray-green under the overcast. And you are on the bluff, and you are alive. And for 3 full seconds you do not do anything but breathe. Other men come up behind you. 6, 8. The sergeant with the hand wound, his field telephone finally abandoned. A corporal from a company that landed half a mile east of its assigned sector. 2 men you have never seen before, and whose unit patches you can't read through the salt and the grime. East of you, maybe 400 yards, there is shouting and then a single explosion. A satchel charge by the sound of it, the flat crack, followed by secondary tumbling, and then a period of lighter fire, and then men appearing on the bluff edge, in numbers, rangers, from the look of them, moving fast in a low crouch, using the German trench line as cover. Someone cleared part of that trench earlier. Not completely, not perfectly, but the 2 men who would have held the far end of it are not there. And the rangers move through that gap the way water finds a crack and follows it down. Real men did the climbing. Cawthon's men, Spaulding's men, men whose names will go into the records and the histories because they stood up on an open beach and decided to move. The platoon above made space. The men below filled it. The sergeant reaches the top, sits down hard on the grass, and wraps his wounded hand in a strip of his own collar. Right. He looks at the plateau ahead. Keep going. Chief Alvarez finds you at the tree line. He comes low and fast, one hand pressed to his thigh, where a field dressing is already soaked through. His leg moves wrong, the kind of wrong that means something structural, not just meat. He drops beside you in the grass, and you see his face. And don't ask the question out loud. Bravo's done. His voice is flat, factual. Diaz is carrying weight. We're out of charges. Out loud it sounds like a sentence ending. It isn't. It's just a measurement. You look at your own magazine. 11 rounds. You have 1 spare, the one from your jacket pocket fed. 3 rounds at the draw and then jammed on the 4th, and you cleared it and chambered the round by hand and decided not to trust it again. 31 rounds total, if you're careful. Chen comes in from the left and pulls off his suppressor without ceremony. The baffles are black, and the threads are stripped on one end, and he drops it in the grass like a thing that used to be useful. Mine went audible 20 minutes ago. He reattaches his rifle bare. Torres, the Alpha's got maybe 40 rounds between them. Lieutenant Hargrove says nothing for a moment. He is looking at his radio. The battery indicator has been blinking amber for an hour and is now simply off. The other set, Nakamura's, took a fragment from a mortar round that walked up the reverse slope 30 minutes ago, and is now 3 separate pieces in Nakamura's chest rig, because Nakamura has not had a moment to put them down. The mortars are the problem now. They started walking at 0850, irregular intervals, probing the reverse slope in 50-yard increments. The German fire discipline. Patient. Methodical. The kind that comes from men who have done this before on ground where the stakes were higher than this. The 352nd is not confused. It is not broken. It has absorbed the disruption of the pre-dawn hours, the way a large, well-trained body absorbs a localized injury with pain, then reorganization, then the specific intentionality of men who know where the threat is and are moving resources toward it. Reyes puts his binoculars on the road running inland from Collaville. Column, foot infantry, a pause, company strength, maybe more, moving this way. Reserve company, pulled from somewhere inland, from a village billet or a secondary position. Men who slept last night and ate this morning and are now moving at a steady pace toward the sound of the beach. Against them, the platoon has 28 men, 1 serious casualty, no demolitions, no radio suppressors either stripped or fouled, and a magazine count that won't survive a sustained firefight. This is the wall, out of failure. Just the physical edge of what 30 men and finite equipment can be asked to do before the arithmetic turns. Below the bluff, the beach is still the beach. The guns that remain, and most remain, are still working the surf. The draws are still contested. The losses of the morning are not unwritten by what happened on the bluff in the dark. The 29th is still bleeding. The 1st is still bleeding. The gap between what the platoon could touch and what the day required was always 4 miles wide. And the platoon was always 30 men. Hargrove closes his dead radio and tucks it away. We've done what we can do here. Nobody argues, not because they're beaten, because he's right, and they all know the shape of right when they're standing inside it. You press yourself flat against the shingle and the world gets very small. The stones are under your cheek again. Different stones, same beach. The gray sameness of this place. They smell of iron and salt and something burned. Your shoulder finds the bank and stays there. Your rifle is across your forearms and your forearms are on the ground and the ground is holding you. The way ground does, without effort, without asking anything back. The MG-42 to the right has paused. Maybe a barrel change, maybe ammunition. It doesn't matter. A pause is the thing. 30, 40 seconds of something that isn't quite silence, but is the outline of it. The shape silence leaves when the noise steps back for a moment. Your lungs find a slower rhythm without you deciding to let them. The cordite is everywhere, in your coat, in your hair, worked into the skin around your nose. Underneath it is wet wool, your own jacket, still damp from the surf crossing, warming now against your chest from the inside out. The slow animal warmth of a body that has decided it is not finished yet. Your shoulders drop. You hadn't known they were up around your ears until they let go. And the letting go moves down through your back in a long, unhurried loosening vertebra by vertebra, like a rope finding slack. Somewhere up the draw, men are still moving. You can hear boots on chalk, the scrape and grunt of the climb. The sound is far away. Not your concern. Right now, in this 30-second parenthesis, the world has opened for you. Your cheek is cold where it meets the stone. The rest of you is warmed. Your heartbeat is in your ears, steadier than it has any right to be, slower than it was 10 minutes ago, settling into something regular and dull and deeply reassuring, the body's own metronome ticking on. You breathe out. The tide is still coming in. You can hear it beneath everything else, the oldest sound on this beach, the sound that was here before the obstacles and will be here after the guns stop. Water over stone, steady, indifferent, patient. Your eyes are very heavy. You let them close for 3 seconds. Just 3. The stones hold you. The afternoon light is flat and gray, and it falls on everything without preference, and you are in a hedgerow at the top of the plateau. On your stomach, your rifle pointing southeast through a gap in the root mass. The earth here smells of cow and old rain, and beneath that, the chalk that is everywhere in Normandy, the white skeleton of the place showing through wherever the soil gets thin. Roots press into your chest. You don't move them. Below and behind you, through the scrub and the smoke, the beach is still going on. But something has changed. The destroyers came in at early afternoon. You heard them before you saw them. The deep authoritative bow wave sound of large ships moving fast in shallow water, and then you risked a look over the bluff edge, and there they were. The Frankfurt, the McCook, others whose names you don't know, threading in, so close to shore. Their hulls were raising sand, grazing the bottom. Sailors at open sights, no ranging, no calculation. Just the gun crew looking at the bluff and shooting at what they could see. The pillbox at WN-61 took 3 rounds inside 4 minutes and stopped being a pillbox. You felt each shot in your sternum, not the explosion, the concussion before it, the pressure wave arriving through the air as a physical fact. Men moved into the draws after that. You watched them from up here, small figures on the sand below, moving in the specific crouched way of men who have stopped expecting cover and started expecting pain instead, and are moving anyway, into the Vierville Gap, into St. Laurent, small units, not waves, sergeants and lieutenants making decisions without orders, because orders are somewhere at the bottom of the channel, or face down on the shingle. Then the decision that remains is always the same. 1. Up or stay. Most went up. Hargrove is 4 feet to your left, his back against the hedgerow, his eyes closed, not sleeping. His hand is pressed flat against his rib cage, feeling his own breathing, the deliberate steadiness of a man taking inventory. Alvarez is behind you. His leg is splinted with 2 rifle cleaning rods and a belt, and he has not complained about it once, which is more frightening than if he had. Chen is on the east end of the perimeter. Okafor the west. Between all of you, the ammunition situation is what it is. Enough for 1 engagement, possibly, if the engagement is brief and the targets are close, and nobody panics. You count the rounds again. Habit. The German company Reyes spotted on the road never came all the way. Naval fire caught the column in open ground, east of Colville, at around 1400. And after that the road was empty. You don't know what happened to those men, and you know the road is empty. By evening, the bluffs belong, tenuously, bloodily, in the specific incomplete way that a body of men can possess ground they have paid for but not yet secured, to the Americans, 2 footholds. The real ones, roughly where the histories will put them, perhaps stretched a few hundred meters at their edges, perhaps with gaps the Germans don't know about yet, perhaps with a few hundred men alive above the wire, who would otherwise not be. 34,000 are ashore. The other number, the one you carry, is still terrible. Lower, maybe, by some margin you cannot calculate and wouldn't trust yourself to calculate even if you could. Still terrible. The two things live together without canceling each other out. You let them. You breathe. The hedgerow holds you. Dark is coming. The light goes out of the sky slowly, the way it does in early June this far north. Not a sudden thing, but a long, gray softening. The overcast thickening from pewter to charcoal. The horizon losing its edge. You are on your back. You don't remember deciding to lie down. Your body made that decision, and your mind followed. The way exhaustion works when it finally gets what it wants. The shingle molds itself around your shoulders and your hips, not comfortable, not soft, but fitted. The stones shifting and settling under your weight until they have found your shape, and then holding it. The beach is quieter than it was, not quiet. The artillery is still talking somewhere east, a low and rhythmic thumping that arrives through the ground before it arrives through the air. You feel it in your spine, in your heels, in the back of your skull where it meets the stone. A pulse that isn't yours, steady and distant, like something the earth is working out on its own. Men are moving at the waterline. Stretcher parties mostly, picking their way through the obstacles in the last of the light. They move slowly. They are in no hurry now. The things they are carrying are not in any hurry either. You watch them without lifting your head. Your arms are at your sides. Your hands are open, palms up, fingers loose. You notice this, and don't change it. A rifle is across your chest, its weight familiar and specific. And beneath the rifle your chest rises and falls, slower than before. The salt is on your lips and your eyelids, and in the creases of your knuckles. The wet wool of your jacket has gone from cold to merely cool against your skin. Somewhere inside it your body is warm, and has been warm for hours, and is warm now, and will stay warm through the night. Your eyelids are very heavy. The shingle rocks, or seems to. The artillery pulse in the ground, the slow draw of the tide, the cold air moving across the beach in long, unhurried passes, all of it together, are rocking. You let it. Your breath goes out long and slow, and the stones hold you, and the dark comes down, and you drift. The straw underneath you smells of old hay and animal warmth, and something faintly sweet, like the barn has been holding summer inside it since before the war came this way. You wake slowly, not the way you woke 6 days ago, with the boat's ramp and the cold and the noise arriving all at once. This is a gradual thing, light through the gaps in the timber, the distant rumble of artillery, so constant now that your sleeping mind has filed it alongside heartbeat and breath. Present, acknowledged, disregarded. You lie still for a moment. A pallet is straw over wood planks, and it is the finest bed you have slept in since England. Your back aches. Your right shoulder, where the pack strap cut through 6 hours in the water, and then 18 hours on the bluff, has a deep bruise that has gone from purple to greenish yellow, and is apparently proud of itself. Your boots are off. Someone removed them while you slept, or you removed them yourself and have no memory of doing it. Outside, a rooster. Then voices, American voices, the flat vowels of the Midwest, 2 men arguing about something that involves a jeep. You sit up. The barn holds maybe 20 men at various stages of sleep and waking. Some are Rangers, some are Big Red 1. The red numeral 1. On the shoulder patch visible where a jacket is folded under a head. One man near the far wall is still completely unconscious, his mouth open, his chest moving in the deep and absolute way of someone who has not slept properly in a week. He hasn't, none of you have. 6 days, the beachhead is real. That is the fact you turn over each morning, the way you check a wound. carefully without pressing too hard, wanting it to still be there. It is still there. The lodgment runs roughly where the map said it would, a ragged crescent of Norman countryside, held by men who are exhausted and dug in and resupplied, imperfectly, through beaches that are still being cleared and organized and expanded. Utah is linked. Gold is linked. The seam between the British and American sectors is thin and occasionally contested, but it holds. You know this the way you know anything in a war. Through fragments, debriefing 2 days ago, words overheard between officers, the shape of the supply traffic moving south past the barn door, the direction of it, the volume, what that volume means. It means the lodgment is breathing. You pull your boots on. Outside, the Norman morning is gray and cool. The sky the same low overcast it has been all week, which is bad for the air and good for men moving in the open. The village beyond the farmyard, Isigny, or near enough, has the particular stillness of a place that has been fought over and then settled into. Rubble stacked against walls, the stone fountain in the square, with someone's washing hung across it. You walk to the fountain and splash your face. The water is cold. It runs down your neck and under your collar, and you let it. The front rumbles somewhere south. A sustained conversation between artillery pieces. Call and response. Nothing urgent in it, just the persistent argument of armies finding each other's edges. You dry your face on your sleeve. Somewhere behind you, one of the Midwest voices wins the argument about the jeet. An engine turns over. A dog barks once from inside a house with no windows. The beachhead breathes. You breathe with it. The ration tin is cold in your hands. Pork and egg, the label says, and you have eaten pork and egg 6 days running. The taste has become less a flavor and more a texture. Dense, slightly salty, the kind of thing your body accepts without enthusiasm. You eat it with a folded cracker, and you're back against a hedgerow that is older than the republic you are fighting for. The bocage is like nothing in the training films. The films showed hedgerows. What they did not convey is the weight of them. Earthen banks 4 feet high, sometimes 6, roots woven through the soil over centuries. And on top of that, a dense tangle of hawthorn and bramble and elm that makes a wall you cannot see through and cannot easily cut through, and that a German machine gun nest can occupy like a piece of furniture. Every field is a room. Every room has a ceiling of gray sky and walls you cannot trust. You have crossed 4 fields today. It took most of the morning. The 88 fires again. Somewhere southeast, the sound arrives in stages. The distant crack of the muzzle, then a silence that is not really silence, and the crump of impact, then the echo coming off the ridge. Your body has learned to sequence these stages without alarm. You count them the way a sleeper counts the strikes of a distant clock. 4. Southeast, but not close. A cow moves in the field across the lane. She has been moving in that field for 3 days, through everything. The shelling, the small arms fire, the night patrols, just walking her slow circuit of the grass, indifferent to the century's worst argument happening around her. Someone yesterday suggested eating her. Nobody laughed. Nobody didn't laugh either. You pull the letter from your breast pocket, and it is not a letter yet. It is a single sheet of paper, folded twice, with your sister's address written at the top in your own handwriting. And below that address, nothing. You have been carrying the paper for 4 days. Each time you open it, you mean to write something, and each time the right words arrange themselves in a shape you cannot quite reach. I am fine is a lie. I am alive is the truth, but it feels like it deserves more than that, like it leaves too much of the space around it empty. You fold the paper and put it back. The bocage smells of cows and wet earth, and underneath those things, something sharper, a chemical edge that does not belong to any farm. And It has been in everything since the beach, in your clothes, in the back of your throat. You stop noticing it on the third day, the way you stop noticing a sound that never stops. You finish the tin. South of here, you know, the Panzer reserves are moving. We're beginning to. Slowly. Each release requiring approval from a command structure that centralizes every decision at the top. That requires Hitler's personal sign-off before armor can respond to what is clearly, obviously, unmistakably a full Allied lodgment. The delay is not your doing. It is not any single man's doing. It is the shape of the thing they have built, and the shape is working against them. But slowly, the 88 again, southeast, the same gun, or a different one. You lick the last of the pork and egg from the cracker. The sparrow lands on the hedgerow opposite, considers the situation, and leaves. The morning holds, the ration tin is cold in your hand. Pork and egg, or something the label claims is pork and egg. You eat it with a spoon you have carried since England, crouched at the base of a hedgerow, so old it has become more wall than plant. Roots, thick as your forearm, earth packed dark between them, hawthorn and blackthorn, and something else you can't name, matted into a vertical mass maybe 5 feet high and 2 feet deep. The Germans figured this out before you did. Every field in Normandy is a box. Every box has 4 of these walls. The walls are centuries old. And stop a rifle round the way a sandbag does, and a tank, when it tries to push through, throws its belly up over the rude mass and presents its thinnest armor to whoever is waiting on the other side. You learned that 3 days ago. You didn't learn it from a briefing. The 88 fires somewhere to the south. 1 round, then quiet, pre-registered probably, reminding someone it's there. You finish the tin and set it in the dirt beside your boot. The field behind you holds 4 cows that have not moved in 2 days. They stand at the far hedgerow with their heads down and their tails slack. And nothing, not the 88, not the machine gun that opened up at 0400 and ran for 30 seconds before someone put a mortar on it. Nothing moves them. They are Norman cows, and this is their field, and they have made their position clear. A letter has been in your chest pocket for 11 days. The paper has softened from proximity to your body, gone almost cloth-like at the folds. You haven't opened it. The return address is Akron, Ohio, your sister's handwriting, and you know from the weight of it and the thickness that she's written 4 or 5 pages, which means she has things to say, which means you need to be in a condition to hear them. You are not yet in that condition. You put it back. Corporal Waynes drops in beside you, his rifle across his knees. Second squad wants to know if we're moving before noon. I don't know what second squad wants. They want to know if we're moving before noon. You look at the hedgerow across the field, 20 yards of open grass, and then another wall exactly like this one, and beyond it, another field, and beyond that, another, all the way to a road that may or may not still have Germans on it. 3 days of this. 3 days to move what a map makes look like nothing. To tell them, I'll let them know. Waynes nods and doesn't move. The smell of the Norman morning is cow dung and wet earth, and cordite, and something green, and living underneath all of it, the hedgerows themselves, growing still, indifferent to the men sheltering inside them. Supply came up last night, ammunition, rations, a single mailbag. The beaches are working. You know this the same way you know everything, from what arrives and when, and how much of it. What arrives is enough. When is regular enough? How much is not comfortable, but it is sufficient, and sufficient is what winning on the ground feels like from inside it. Not triumphant, just enough to continue. The 88 fires again. Further west this time, working a different grid. The cows don't look up, and you pick up your rifle. Check the chamber from habit. Set it back across your knees and wait for orders that haven't come yet. The peaches come from a tin someone found in a farmhouse cellar. You eat them with your fingers, sitting on the running board of a half-track that has not moved in 6 hours. And the syrup runs down your wrist and you lick it off. And the sweetness is so absolute, so entirely unlike anything the last 7 weeks have tasted of, that you sit with it for a moment. Saint-Lô is behind you. That sentence still has weight. Saint-Lô, which the maps showed as a crossroads and the approach to which showed itself as 6 weeks of hedgerow, field by field, each one its own argument, its own cost. The town itself, when you came through it, was barely a town anymore. Rubble and open sky where roof lines had been, the cathedral with its sides staved in, standing in the dust, like something that had decided to remain on principle. Behind you now, the road ahead is moving. That is the thing you keep looking at. The column, the actual forward motion of it, trucks and half-tracks, and men on foot, and jeeps threading between them, all moving south and east, all moving in the same direction, all moving at a pace that is not the pace of the bocage. 3 weeks ago, you moved 4 fields in a morning. This morning, the column covered 12 miles before the halt. 12 miles. The First Army's punch came down on the 25th. Carpet bombing first. Wave after wave of heavies laying a strip of destruction across the German line, west of Saint-Lô. Some of it landed short. You were back far enough that short meant someone else's terrible morning. And you carry that fact without examination, the way you carry a lot of facts now. What came after the bombing was the column. Armor first, then infantry following the gaps, and the German line, which had held and held and held through all of June and into July, did not hold. It came apart, not like a wall falling, more like a rope that has been fraying for weeks. And then, one morning you pull on it, and the fibers simply separate. And what you're holding is 2 ends of nothing. Waynes appears from the far side of the half-track and drops onto the running board beside you. Prisoners coming back up the road. You've seen them, groups of 10 and 20, some very young, some not young at all, hands behind their heads, walking north while everything else moves south. Their faces have a particular quality you've stopped trying to name. They're saying it's opening up past Avranches. He means the gap, the widening gap. I know what they're saying. He takes a peach slice when you hold the tin toward him. The road keeps moving. An armored column threads past, the tank commanders standing up in their hatches, the July sun on their shoulders. One of them raises a hand in the general direction of no one in particular. Waynes raises one back. The air smells of dust and diesel, and somewhere off to the east, something burning. It is a smell you no longer need to investigate. You have learned the difference between the smells that require action and the smells that do not. This one does not. The column moves. The afternoon light goes long and golden across the Norman fields, and the hedgerows cast their shadows east. And somewhere, on a road like this, one but further, a wait of 7 weeks is becoming motion. You finish the last peach, lick the syrup from the tin, wait for the half-track to start. The hedgerow holds you like a chair, and you settle back against the earth bank and the roots and packed soil. Take your weight the way nothing has in weeks, fully, without asking anything in return. Your rifle is across your thighs. Your pack is beside you in the grass. The straps have left marks in your shoulders that you can feel even now, even without the weight, a memory the body keeps. The light is going but slowly. Norman summer evenings take their time. The sky above the hedgerow is the color of a bruised peach, rose and amber, fading through violet at the edges, and the swallows that have been hunting the field all afternoon are still up there, still working, quick dark shapes against the color. Crickets now. You didn't notice when they started, but they are well established, a steady pulse rising out of the grass on both sides of you. The sound of them fills in around the distant artillery the way water fills a shape. Your jaw unclenches. You hadn't noticed it was clenched. The breath comes down through your chest, slower now, finding its own depth, and your shoulders drop a half inch and stay there. The earth at your back is still warm from the day, a mild and patient warmth that asks nothing. Your legs go heavy, not the heavy of exhaustion fighting you, the heavy of exhaustion releasing you. There is a difference, and your body knows it. The swallows drop lower over the field. Your eyelids slow. Somewhere south, an artillery piece fires once, and the sound rolls across the fields and fades into the hedgerows, and the evening absorbs it. And the crickets don't stop. They never stop. The light keeps its slow retreat, and the earth at your back keeps its warmth, and your hands loosen on the rifle, and your breathing finds a pace that is almost sleep. Almost. The edge of it. The warm shallows where the body floats. The last light catches the top of the hedgerow opposite. Green going gold, going dark. The single star, the first one. Your chest rises, falls, rises. The star holds. You watch it from the hedgerow, that first pale point above the Norman fields, and your body is heavy and warm, and the crickets are still talking in the grass, and somewhere in the distance the artillery has gone quiet for the first time in hours, and you think about the beach. Not the noise of it. The noise has been everywhere, layered into everything, and your mind has processed its fill and filed it, and you think instead about the particular quiet at Easy Red, in one sector, in the minutes before the ramps came down. A gun that should have opened fire and didn't. Men who reached the shingle bank because the beaten zone in front of them was empty of the fire that was supposed to be there. A sergeant who looked left and found a gap and took it. You will not know those men's names. You will never meet them. But they are somewhere in Normandy tonight, or England, or a hospital ship, or further still, already home, because of a charge placed against an embrasure in the dark, a timer set by a man who swam 40 minutes in 13-degree water to be there. That is the true size of it. Not small, not nothing, but also not the shape of the war. The Ardennes will come in December. You don't know this yet. Your body against the Norman earth, the star overhead, the summer evening. But the line will buckle in the Ardennes winter, and men will hold Bastogne through cold and fog, and the particular stubbornness that seems to be the specific property of surrounded men who have decided not to move. And the line will hold, and the bulge will close. And none of that will have anything to do with a bluff in June. From the east, the Soviet armies are moving with a mass that rewrites the arithmetic of the war every week. Divisions, armies, fronts rolling westward across ground that was Russian once and then was not, and now is being reclaimed at a price that does not register on any scale you own. That weight was moving before the beach. It will move after. It will reach Berlin ahead of you, or alongside you, or just after, and what it finds in Berlin in the spring of 1945 will end the thing that started this. American steel ships, American steel tanks, American factories running 3 shifts in Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania. This is what presses on the German economy until the seams give. Fuel running short, replacements running short. The Luftwaffe, a memory of itself. All of this was already true on the morning you climbed the bluff. The raid did not move those plates. It moved one gun, which gave one sector a few minutes of silence, which a sergeant used because sergeants use what they are given. The handful of men at WN 62 who spent the morning of the 6th as prisoners instead of gunners. A cable cut, the telephone trunk severed. A forward observer who looked up from his table and never looked up again. The war rolled on around it, vast and tidal, moving to forces no 30 men could redirect. But the men on Easy Red, who lived, they are the size of it. That is not diminishment. That is the actual scale of what courage can do inside a machine too large for courage alone to stop. The star holds above the hedgerow. Your breathing slows. The crickets hold their steady pulse in the grass. The summer dark comes down across Normandy, soft and complete. Over the living and the not living both, the star holds. You watch it from somewhere that is not quite the hedgerow anymore, not quite Normandy, not quite 1944. The cricket pulse has softened into something else. The low hum of a house at rest, a refrigerator, a street outside, rain on a window perhaps, the particular sound of wherever you are right now, your bed, your actual bed. The weight of the blanket across your legs is real. The pillow under your head is real. The warmth that has built up around your body while you've been lying here. That slow, accumulated warmth that belongs to no one else, that fits the exact shape of you. That is real. Feel it. Your shoulders are against the mattress. Let them stay there. Your hands are open or nearly open, fingers loose, and the heaviness in your arms is the good kind, a kind that means the day is done, and the body knows it, and has begun the long, patient work of repair. Your jaw. Your breathing has already slowed without your asking it to. In, easy, low, and out, slow, the body spending nothing, keeping the warmth, settling further into the surface beneath you. A long time ago, on a beach in France, men waded through cold water toward something they could not yet see, carrying everything they had. They climbed, they held. They slept in hedgerows when the evening let them, with the Norman earth at their backs and the summer sky overhead. And the next morning they got up and moved. Most of them never talked about it much. They came home to ordinary rooms and ordinary beds, and the extraordinary fact of an untroubled night. Then perhaps some of them lay exactly as you are lying now, heavy, warm, the day's weight finally setting down, and felt the simple animal gratitude of a body that is safe and warm, and asked for nothing more tonight. You have that, right now in this room, in this bed, in this quiet. You have that, and it is not a small thing. Close your eyes. The warmth stays. The breath stays. The dark behind your eyelids is soft and unhurried, and there is nothing required of you now. Nothing at all. The star still holds above the hedgerow. You are lying in the grass at the field's edge, your rifle across your chest, your boots wet through. The Norman night is cool and smells of chalk and something green, crushed clover maybe, the earth pressed flat beneath you. Your body has stopped asking for things. It has gone quiet the way bodies do when they have spent everything and arrived, finally, at stillness. 30 of you came up that bluff in the dark. You think about that number now. 30. The beach held 2,000 dead before noon. The tide brought in 34,000 men by nightfall. Behind them, a fleet so large it crossed the horizon in both directions. Behind that fleet, factories in Ohio and Pennsylvania, running 3 shifts. Behind those factories, a country that had made a decision and could not unmake it. The weight of all of that moved regardless. It moved before H-hour, and it was already moving in 1942, in the keels being laid, and the young men being trained, and the long, grinding mathematics of industrial war. You touched the edges of this day. A gun went silent. A cable lay cut in the chalk. An observer never called his grid. A sergeant on Easy Red found a few yards of quiet and used them, because sergeants use what they are given, and some men walked out of the surf who might not have. That is the true size of it. 30 extraordinary men carrying everything modern war could put in their hands, could touch the edges of a day like this. They could not unmake it. The day belonged to the ordinary men in the surf, the ones who had never trained for anything like this, who were cold and sick and stripped of their equipment by the current, who stood up anyway. It belonged to the mass behind them. That is not a diminishment of the 30. It is simply where the weight lived. A cricket pulse runs through the grass. Your breathing slows. The chalk is cool and firm beneath your shoulder blades. And above you, the sky has gone the deep, particular blue that comes just before the dark, gives up pretending, and becomes something else entirely. The star holds. Everything holds. Your eyes grow heavy, and the night settles over you like something patient and complete. The grass is gone, the chalk is gone, the smell of cordite and crushed clover and salt, all of it gone. What you feel now is your pillow, the actual weight of it against the side of your face, the particular give of it, the warmth your own head has made there over the course of this night. Your blanket is pulled up somewhere around your shoulder, and beneath it the air is close and soft, the temperature that belongs only to you. Your room is quiet, whatever sound comes through, a car passing somewhere outside, the low pulse of a house settling, rain maybe, or wind, or the simple silence of a street that has no name in any military record. It is yours. It is ordinary. It asks nothing of you. You did not have to cross a beach tonight. You did not have to stand up in the surf with the weight of a pack and the sound of everything breaking open around you. Your bed is flat. Your bed is dry. Nobody has pre-registered artillery on the coordinates of this room. Feel the blanket. Feel the specific warmth of it, the way it has shaped itself to your shoulders and your knees and wherever you have settled. Your jaw is loose. Your hands are open. The muscles along your back, the ones that have been holding all day without you noticing, they are letting go now. One by one, slow as tide. Your breathing is already changing. In through the nose, long and unhurried. Out through the mouth, softer still. The ceiling above you is the same ceiling it was this morning. The walls are the same walls. Nothing in this room has moved. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. This was a story. The beach was real. The men were real. The cold and the sand and the long, terrible morning all happened exactly as they happened 80 years ago on a coast that is quiet now. But you are not there. You were never there. You are here. Your pillow. Your blanket. Your dark. The night outside does whatever it does, and you have no part in it tonight. You have already done the only thing asked of you, which was to listen, and now that too is finished. They were cold before you were born. The men on that sand, they were 20, 22, some of them 19, and they were cold and sick from the channel crossing, and their hands were shaking when the ramp went down. They did not feel like history. They felt like the cold. They felt like the weight of wet wool, and the ramp dropping and the water coming up faster than expected. They were frightened. That is the true thing. Not the monuments, not the footage, not the numbers in the after-action reports. The true thing is that they were frightened and they went anyway. And most of their names you will never know, and they are gone now, all of them, every last one. And the quiet you are lying in tonight, this specific quiet, the dark of your room, the weight of your blanket, the soft particular warmth beneath it, that belongs only to you. This is what was on the other side of that morning, not for them, not most of them, but for someone. A daughter who was not yet born, a town that kept its lights on, a season that arrived the following year without artillery in it. The quiet accumulated, slowly, the way all quiet does, and it moved forward through the decades until it reached this room, this night, this breath you are taking now without thinking about it, in and out. Your chest rises, settles, rises again. You did not earn this the way they earned it. Nobody could. It was given forward across 80 years by people who were cold and shaking and went anyway. That is worth one breath of acknowledgement in the dark, one moment of knowing it was not nothing, that morning, that it costs something real, that you are the quiet on the other side of it. Your hands are open on the blanket. Your jaw is soft. The space behind your eyes has gone dark and loose, the way it does when sleep is close and no longer something you are reaching for. It is simply arriving, the way morning arrives, the way tide arrives, patient and certain, and not requiring anything from you at all. You are warm. You are safe. Close your eyes. Sleep well. The star still holds above the hedgerow. You are lying in the grass at the field's edge, your rifle across your chest, your boots wet through. A Norman night is cool and smells of chalk and something green. Crushed clover, maybe, the earth pressed flat beneath you. Your body has stopped asking for things. It has gone quiet the way bodies do when they have spent everything, and arrived, finally, at stillness. 30 of you came up that bluff in the dark. You think about that number now. 30. The beach held 2,000 dead before noon. The tide brought in 34,000 men by nightfall. Behind them, a fleet so large it crossed the horizon in both directions. Behind that fleet, factories in Ohio and Pennsylvania, running 3 shifts. Behind those factories, a country that had made a decision and could not unmake it. The weight of all of that moved regardless. You touched the edges of this day. The gun went silent. A cable lay cut in the chalk. A sergeant on easy red found a few yards of quiet and used them, because sergeants use what they are given. And some men walked out of the surf who might not have. A cricket pulse runs through the grass beside your hand. Above you, the sky has gone the deep particular blue that comes just before the dark gives up entirely. One star holds. Your breathing slows, without you deciding it should. The chalk is cool and firm beneath your shoulder blades, and the night settles over you like something patient, something that has been waiting a long time to arrive. And now your pillow is beneath your cheek. Your blanket is pulled up around your shoulder. The warmth beneath it is yours, made by your own body over the course of this night, and it asks nothing of you. Your hands are open. Your jaw is loose. The ceiling above you is the same ceiling it was this morning. You are not on that bluff. You were never on that bluff. As sleep comes, and it is coming now, slow and certain as tide, you might find yourself wondering, just briefly, what those 30 shadows in the chalk above Omaha would have made of this. Your room, this dark, this specific, ordinary quiet. Let that thought drift where it wants to go. Sleep well.